pleasure to be here. We have been customizing vehicles for specially abled for a very long time now. It's almost been, I think, around 40 years since we've been doing this. And it has been a passion for me. That's how I got started. I did it for a friend and, his friend, and then it went on. But today we've realized that there is so much that we can do with what we have. And we have been customizing, basically giving people devices for driving, for wheelchair accessible, for vehicles, customizing vehicles to make them wheelchair accessible, where they can, go into the vehicle with their wheelchair. And besides that, we've been doing a load of other things, basically reaching out to people in need, understanding the need, basically. So once we get understanding the need, then it becomes easy to fulfill a requirement. We've been making all sorts of devices, okay, starting with the cars, the hand controls, enabling a person without limbs, without one limb or both limbs to drive a normal car, for which we have got certification now from the transport authorities, and everything is legal. Besides that, we make patient hoists that, you can transfer a patient from a bed to the chair. So this is FerroEquip is the company that we run. Ferro is for Rodericks. So we've an ISO company. We are RTO approved, DRI certified. We had the honor of doing a vehicle for Professor Stephen Hawking when he came to India in the year 2001. So we customized the vehicle for him and made it accessible, because those days nobody knew what accessibility was. And it would have been very embarrassing had we not been able to make a vehicle for him to travel. This is something which is very unique. These are seats for children with cerebral palsy, and it gives them, this is totally made in-house by us. So if you see the seat here, it has got thoracic support. It has got a leg separator. It has got chest support. It's got, straps for the thighs. So it gives a total complete sitting posture for the child. So you could see it's got footrest, folding footrest, and it's got a headrest. So these are all totally indigenized and made according to the user. So in consultation with the physiotherapists, we make seats like that for children. This is one of the times when we fitted a seat for someone who wanted to take a child to school. So that's how we've even done that as well. So it's basically totally customization. Here the photographs are more clear, where you've got the headrest, you've got thoracic support, you've got a 4-point harness, which keeps the child sitting in with a good posture. These are all different. This is something very unique, which we designed basically for a therapist and a child to ride together using a therapy cycle. So we designed a 3-wheeler. This is being used by a hospital in Gujarat that is specially made a track to for children to exercise and to do therapy riding these cycles. You can see here how the therapist is sitting behind and child in the front. So we also made another model of this cycle. These are probably the first time made in India, wherein a parent and a child can sit side by side. We also have one with the gentleman had a disability and he could ride along with his wife. So he would get some amount of exercise and they could ride together. These are also tricycles where we made for children to hold on to their balance. So we made tricycles with, you could see the angulated wheels, which keep them stable and prevent them from falling down. These are also tricycles, which we have customized a lot of these to make it comfortable and make it user friendly. These are gait walkers, which enable the child with CP to rest their arms, and basically it's got harnesses within them, and they get basically good posture and they can walk without falling down. It's a different model as well. We've all developed these indigenously here. This is a patient hoist wherein a person can be shifted from the bed to the chair. So they've got different slings. One is the body sling, which can be lifted the person completely. And when you need to toilet a person, you can use a different sling, which is a toilet sling, which exposes the whole portion below. And you can clean them and, it's an electric model. These are also something which we've made for, basically we've made different kinds of solutions which have been affordable for people. We've also made something very unique called a wheelchair treadmill for those who want to exercise the upper body, wherein they can use them to turn the wheels and be in a single place. These are a few customizations that we have done. We did this for a lady who her lower body had only developed this much, and she wanted to use a keyboard. So we customized the whole thing for her to be able to use a keyboard lying down on a wheelchair. These are different harnesses that we have made for hydrotherapy and for paraplegics who need to kind of get their muscles moving. So that's suspended from a rail on top. These are different kind of slings that we have used. We have made these indigenously according to the size of the person and for their basically understanding the requirement with the therapist. These are a set of transfer bells which are very useful. Unfortunately, we can't show you the video, but it helps to transfer a person from the bed to the chair. Very good for caregivers, and it's light on the back, so it doesn't kind of stress them out too much. For all these videos, people can log on to my YouTube channel or my website, which is at the end of this session, and you will have a better idea of the videos and what it can actually do. This we made kind of a standing kind of setup. Gentleman has polio, so he doesn't need anybody to lift him up. The wheelchair itself, by using the remote, will make him to a standing position. For a lot of people who need to get down from the ground and get onto a wheelchair, so we made a moving platform from the ground, can transfer from the ground onto a platform, and with the help of a remote, gets lifted up to a wheelchair height, and then he can transfer to the wheelchair. These are the car hand controls. So any normal car can be driven using the hand controls. So we've made a hand operated brake and accelerator and clutch. So any normal car can be driven by especially a person with special ability. These are different controls of different models. We've customized cars from as small as Nano to BMW and Audi and Mercedes, depending on the requirement of the person or the user. These are also auxiliary accelerators that can be fitted in automatics, wherein a person with a right limb disability can drive the car using only his left limb. We've also customized the auto rickshaw, the three-wheelers, making it accessible and making it user-friendly. So a person with a right limb disability can drive an auto rickshaw. This is a transfer plate. So a lot of people have a problem when they come up to the wheelchair where a paraplegic needs to get onto the seat. There's always a gap between the seat and the wheelchair which needs to be fulfilled. So this is a kind of a folding plate where the person from the wheelchair transfers onto the plate and gets into the car. And this plate folds at the back, so it's not visible. These are rotary seats, which the seat can turn 90 degrees and helps people to get in when you find it difficult to get into the car seat and you need to turn around. You cannot turn easily. So the rotary seat helps you to do a turn. These are wheelchair accessible vehicles. The car here shown is a Wagoner. It's got a folding ramp, simple modifications. We need to increase the roof height in some cases. So the roof height has also been increased. This is all indigenously done in our workshop in Mumbai. These are the cars. Car has been fitted with a wheelchair lift. So person gets onto the wheelchair platform and can be lifted into the car and the wheelchair closes. So these are normal sedans or they're normal cars which we increase the roof height or we modify the interiors to accommodate a wheelchair inside. Because none of our cars here in India have that facility or that roof height which is available like the vans abroad. So we have to indigenize and make things possible and capable. This is also something unique we designed where the wheelchair can be lifted for a paraplegic or quadriplegic. It can be lifted and loaded onto the roof of the vehicle electronically. These are vehicles that we have done for short stature people, wherein we bring the controls right up to the hand or we modify the car around them and make them safe to drive and give them mobility. This is what we need to do in the car to make them comfortable and secure. This is something very unique which we have done is a two-wheeler ambulance. Basically ambulances to go into the villages or remote areas and bring patients to the hospital or to deal with them. This has been used basically for a lot of rural areas where they get snake bites or pregnant women and where they can be, be managed through and just ambulances come through tight situations. So this was totally indigenized and, made by us in our workshop with unique features in it. This is all something also that we made as a swimming pool hoist to put a patient into the water for hydrotherapy. Something simple of design and very effective. It is being used by the paraplegic rehab center where almost 75 paraplegics are using this device for hydrotherapy every day. This is a swimming pool platform that is made specially for children. So when you go into a pool and small children cannot be put into the pool where a therapist wants to do therapy for them. So this at least they can stand and the therapist can stand at her height and or his height and the child can be. We've also started a center for special children in Mumbai in a hospital at Powai, which we run. We do it for children under 18, for underprivileged children, reaching out to them. Right now, we just cover about the few disabilities for hearing impaired, speech impaired, orthopedic, visually impaired. We've just started it and it's just completed about a year of running. These are all my contact details and my website and my YouTube channel. You can see all that you want to know and you can get in touch with me if there is anything on email or you can ask me questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Jeremy, I always think of you and others who are blind when we give a presentation. And unfortunately, you couldn't see a lot of this wonderful stuff. But it's one question I have for you, Doctor, is that the devices that you have here are all pretty much geared, which are beautiful. They're really beautiful. And I like the fact that you. I like the fact that you have a problem and you try to resolve it. I really appreciate that side to what you do. And I see that most of the devices you have here are geared towards mobility challenges. Do you also work with people who are blind and deaf? And if you do, what kind of things do you do for them?
We've not really got deep into that right now. but we are getting there because now we've just started a center for special children where we are getting to know more about them and how we need to deal with them and what we need to deal with them.
Okay. And Jeremy, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Doctor. That was excellent. Even though I couldn't see it, I certainly got the gist. I was curious about one thing. I used to import hand controls from an excellent crowd in London. And, you know, the one thing I've always thought was that you had to have an automatic to make it a simple affair to adapt a car. But I'm fascinated to hear how you overcome the clutch problem with a manual car. I see you've done it, and I'm interested to know how you did that.
So it was a breakthrough for us. In fact, here in India, everybody recommended initially just the automatics, and we came out with the hand controls and the clutch. We made a vacuum system, okay, using the engine vacuum, and we made it with a kind of a rubber bellows, which, you know, when the vacuum is sucked out of it, it pulls the cable and pulls the clutch. So we have a small storage tank. So when you start the engine, the tank is evacuated and it creates a high vacuum. So when the bellows, when the valve, the button that you press on the clutch, when you press the button, it, you know, opens the valve and it sucks out the air out of the bellows, and that pulls the cable and that pulls the clutch.
Wow. And it pulls it in long enough for you to be able to change gears.
Absolutely.
And then do you have to press the button again to release the clutch, or does it do it automatically?
No, when you release the button, when you press the button, the clutch gets depressed. When you release the button, it releases. And it releases slowly, so it doesn't go in a jerk.
Sure. Wow, that is so clever. Now, if I might just hog the thing one more time. Clearly, everything you've shown us is highly customized. And in many economies, that would mean that it would be prohibitively or certainly quite expensive. How do you overcome that? Because I think there would be a lot more innovative engineering if it wasn't so expensive. I'm fascinated that you've got so much customizable material. How do you get over that?
It's not expensive as such because it's quite economical. I mean, if you consider you converted it to maybe 25 to 30,000 rupees, which is quite affordable. And if you have the auxiliary accelerators, about 15,000 rupees. So I don't think if you convert it to dollars, it's, you know, there are a lot of,
yes,
sorry,
carry on.
No, there are a lot of companies that we represent, but we like Braun Ability and Judo Simplex, and, you know, but we found that our controls are the cheapest. So we rather, you know, sell our own than sell the others.
And I wasn't only referring to the hand controls. I think everything you make is cleverly customized. I mean, you obviously have templates. So, I mean, your hoist, for instance, is clearly a standard item. You know, it's not there's no necessity for customizing your swimming pool hoist or your bath hoist. So, in other words, can you do stock in advance? And can you bring, from economy of scale, you can bring your prices down that way?
Sure, we can, definitely. If we had quantum, then we could have, you know, built in bulk, and we can definitely bring down the prices. The thing is, here it's like, you know, selling one piece to one person. So it's yet we have to, it starts all from the beginning, you know, like getting the wood and then cutting it and, you know, putting it to shape. Whereas if we have an order for, you know, a few of them, then I can, you know, buy metal more. There's less wastage in what we do. And definitely it would benefit a lot of people.
And one last question, does government or is there any entity that subsidizes your work to the point where the customer has to pay less as a result?
Unfortunately, no. And that we would have loved to have something like that. If there was some kind of subsidy, we would be only too happy to, you know, give it to them at cost. But unfortunately, it doesn't get recognized. There's too much of bureaucracy. There's too much of red tape. And, by the time we prefer reaching out to the person concerned and giving them the best offer rather than greasing somebody else's palms and, getting
Mhm.
frustrated with the whole thing. Ultimately, your reach, it's not, the reach doesn't really reach the people that you want to reach.
Of course, of course. But thank you. I'll leave it now for someone else to ask questions. Thank you.
Okay, and John
Thank you,
has his
sir.
hand up. John?
And
Good afternoon, Doctor. Just two things I was wondering. One is a bit of information. I actually learnt to drive on a car which had a clutch, accelerator, and a brake, all controlled from the hand controls about many years ago. And probably Jeremy was importing his stuff from Roselco in London. The other thing is, have you ever tried to convert a car for a person with no arms?
I did have two requirements and I started working on it. It was a while back, but then it didn't. See, sometimes people need to push you to do things. And if they had probably pushed me hard enough, I would have, but they gave up, they came up with that initial idea. I was very excited and working on it. But then there was no follow-up later on. And then, doing R&D, and if people do not use what we make, it doesn't make sense. So I gave it up.
No, definitely customize that.
There's a gentleman, probably all of us have seen him, who's made a living on his disability, actually. Also he's a public speaker and he's made a living on that too. But he has no arms. He has very short legs. And they actually made a device for him to drive the car where they attached it to his shoulders. So if he turned shoulder one way, the car would go one way. He turned the shoulder the other way, the car would go the other way. So there is a solution for that.
We have one here in Cape Town.
Yeah.
I've seen some solutions in Italy on a similar kind of thing where you can steer with your legs and, control the car.
There's a local airfield near us, and there's a Cessna 152 down there, and he flies it without any use of arms at all. It's been adapted completely for flying, and he also takes up. They take the doors off, and he takes up the free fall parachutists as well. So
it's amazing.
That's great. Eh?
You should see the look of the people when they get on board his aeroplane, and for the first time.
We even made a go-kart for somebody to drive.
Yeah.
Without limbs. So we've even done that. The friend of mine was both limb amputated, and I had a go-kart with me which we had built. So we made it totally hand controlled and gave him the opportunity to drive a go-kart, the experience and the thrill of driving one.
If you've got the willingness to do it, the skill and the lateral thinking, engineering can do wonders.
Absolutely.
And you've succeeded. And I've been in the disability industry for donkey's years, and a couple of bits. The one that really struck me, which would be very useful for the export market, is your sidecar ambulance.
Yeah, that was also something interesting to build. It was more the thrill of building it all, Most of these devices that we do, it has so much of, passion and attachment, and the person that you're building for, it's, it's sometimes very difficult to explain what you actually go through, Each person who drives their own car, it's like going out on a first date, they're so excited, and the thrill comes to us, the smiles are the best reward that you can get.
Yeah, what you can't see, Doctor, is I'm actually in a wheelchair, and I drive from my wheelchair in a specially adapted vehicle.
Nice.
Oh, that's great.
Nice. So, Doctor, thank you very much. I like the fact, obviously, that you custom make these for each person. which I think in many cases is critical rather than having something that's been mass produced. It's custom made for the specific need of that person. Also, you and I had talked about if there is somebody who has a problem meeting the financial needs, you will try to work with them and try to resolve that problem for you. And you and I also talked about, can you do this around the world? And you said, yes, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. So
Sure.
it's all good to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And now we're going to turn over to technology. We're going to go a little bit south of the doctor down to Sri Lanka. Zeman has a focus and a passion for technology issues and technology devices for people with disabilities. Zeman, if you could introduce yourself, and I'm turning this over to you.
Thank you very much, Ken, and thank you, Dr. Ferdy, as well, for that amazing presentation. Really enlightening to see the kind of support that people are creating for, people like me. I also use a wheelchair. A little bit about myself. I am Zimnan. I am 23 years old, and I'm a Sri Lankan. Born and lived abroad for my entire life, up till late last year, in fact. And so I completed my bachelor's abroad in psychology, and I just came back to Sri Lanka. And really in Singapore, where I lived for the last 15 years, there was a lot of physical support for people with disabilities, the train and getting to buildings, and even for wheelchair transport, it was very, very much conducive. And when I came to Sri Lanka, there was no infrastructure at all. So together with my family, I have a separate passion for technology and the kind of support that technology can give as well. But after coming back to Sri Lanka as well, similar to what Dr. Ferdy does, me and my parents have engaged in a bit of, taking the existing stuff, what I have, like a ramp and a table, and, making it into a solution where I can at least go to work one time a week. I am a project administrator, and I work for a mental health and wellness non-government organization in Sri Lanka called Kalyana Sri Lanka. I can share our website at the end of the discussion. My sort of touch with technology came at a very young age, where I would basically sit next to a person that I was very familiar with, more likely would be a family friend, and I would basically get to talking with them, and I would slowly, reach over to their pocket or their phone on the table, and I would just pull it towards me and, start going through their apps and, to get an understanding of how the phone itself worked. And so at that age, it was a very unusual thing to do, but it was one of the core building blocks of my life, where I grew to appreciate technology and the work that it can do to help people reach all around the world. Because for a lot of the meetings now, it's technology. I can, being physically present in Sri Lanka or in Singapore, I can be in the United Kingdom, I can be in the US, it doesn't matter. But technology enables the power of, transcending national boundaries, and it just transports you to a totally different place. I am not involved much in technical work of accessibility, like accessibility guidelines. It's just I utilize Apple devices. So I have found that basically Apple is the best, for me, the best provider of, user design, the way the screen is non-cluttered. It basically gives a very appealing look. And if I may have your permission, I can share my iPhone as well, so that I can show you one of the accessibility tools that I use very much day in, day out on my iPhone.
Okay, now you should be okay. You can do that.
1 second, let me share this.
There you go.
Yeah, 1 second. Getting it up now. Can you see this?
Yes.
So basically, this is a standard iPhone, nothing modified to it in any way, except for one little digital modification that is natively available in Apple's settings, quite easy, in fact, and I'll show you where it can be found as well. If you notice right near my Microsoft Word application, you can see that there is a solid black button here. So basically what this does is it transforms a lot of the physical buttons required on an iPhone, like the volume up button, the sleep wake button, and it basically transforms it into sort of a contextual menu that is always there on the side of your screen for you to basically do anything. For example, now if I wanted to pull down my notification center, I could do that. If I wanted to basically go into my device settings and increase my volume or even unmute my phone, rotate the screen, and even go in deeper and trigger maybe an SOS call to my friends and family if I've fallen down, restart my phone. There are so many options that can be built into this tool. And what I really use it for is you can customize this particular button. It's a small black button that can be repositioned anywhere, really. When you press on it, or if you tap on it, you can make it perform a series of actions or a singular action. So for example, now you notice that my button has gone light gray. So light gray means it's inactive. I can sort of utilize my screen as per normal. But if I press and hold on it, you can see my screen flashes, and in the bottom left-hand corner, there is a small pop-up window that appears saying that I have taken a screenshot. So for example, during my work, I interact with a lot of social media content, stuff that we come across, daily mental health resources. So this is basically a very effective way for me to capture instant screenshots rather than, finding the volume up button and the sleep wake button, which is currently the method used on new iPhones to trigger a screenshot. This is a way for me to, without, fiddling around with my phone and, potentially even dropping my phone. This is the way that I use my phone to navigate, basically, and for example, let's say, for example, I've got maybe my Word app open, right? And I have got my let's say a reading app open, right? I'm a ardent reader, and I use my phone and my computer a lot for reading. So if I tap on this small black circle at the side, it'll open up. And if I double tap the home button twice, it would open up to this, app switcher where there would be two apps side by side. I can choose to, throw it. I can choose to close it down. I can choose to, switch to another app, or even, completely disregarding this black button at the side. I can utilize at the bottom, you would see there is a tiny black bar that allows you to, swipe between apps. So it's basically an ability for a very low effort method of switching between apps. And also, if you don't want to double tap the home button on the menu that I showed you, you could just push the app up and it would open up the app switcher as well, So this feature is currently only available on Apple devices, both for the iPhone, iPad, and there is a version of it for the Apple Watch where using your wrist movements, basically you can use the accelerometer or the gyroscope on the Apple Watch to navigate in between these menus, because in the Apple Watch, you have to tap individual icons. Now, for me, if you see, my arms are short, so I cannot reach across to my other limb to tap on a watch, So basically, the Apple Watch has a function where you could just rotate your wrist, move it back and forth, and that would allow you to, go in between menus and allow you to select a lot of stuff. Let me show you where this menu, where this little contextual menu here can be activated. So if you go into the main settings app on an iPhone or an iPad, you can go all the way down. And this is one of the greatest things that Apple did in recent software updates. They brought the accessibility feature right to the main settings screen. Earlier, it used to be hidden behind the general option. You had to go through a couple of layers of menus in order to get to it. And the accessibility team at Apple just thought that it's one of their core values, one of their 6 core values. So they thought that they would bring it to the front so that it becomes just a normal menu, like for a person who needs to turn off their notification or change their wallpaper, certain people need to change their accessibility settings very quickly. So accessibility comes to the forefront. And when you open that, you get about 3 or 4 areas of basically accessibility interventions on the device that you could do. You have vision, you have physical and motor, you have hearing, and you have a general section as well. For me, it is the physical and not the physical and motor section, but rather, one second. Let me find out where this is. Assistive touch. Let's search.
We've got actually Nelisha said that that's also available on Android. So that they also have it now on Android.
Okay, that's very good to know. So in the physical and motor section, if you touch on the touch section, you would get, a section above at the very top itself called Assistive Touch. So Assistive Touch is the name of this little black button that floats around my screen. So basically, for the technical people, the best way I could describe it is an overlay on top of your screen. So when it's not in use, it goes light gray. And when you want to use it and you interact with it, it turns dark black. and it basically pops up a full menu in front of your face that allows you to do a lot of system actions, such as reducing your volume, even locking your screen, getting Siri, Apple's voice assistant. And so basically what I have done here is you can customize the menu. What you saw earlier, this menu, what you see at the front where you have the notification center, device, control center, that can be changed from 6 icons to even 5. So if you feel that this is too cluttered for you, you can reduce it down. You can keep it to basically the number of icons that you wish. And furthermore, if you go down into the custom actions menu, you would see single tap, double tap, and long press. So if currently single tap is set to open menu, and yes, when I do a single tap, it opens up a menu, right? So earlier I demonstrated that a long press would allow me to take a screenshot. And, there's a lot of custom actions that you could do. You could use it to open a camera. You could use it to hold and drag something. You could even use it to go to your home screen, mute your phone, so basically the sort of customizability of this one feature alone, the feature itself provides a lot of versatility, but within that feature itself, you have a lot of customizability. And this is really my main assistive technology feature that I use every single day. Other than that, my devices are pretty much standard. I use a 13-inch laptop. So the keyboard is very much close to me. That is also an Apple MacBook. And basically the connectivity is very important for assistive technology. Assistive technology needs to, one of the core, I would say, competencies of assistive technology is if you have multiple devices, they need to be able to communicate with each other, and certainly having devices from one manufacturer, in this case, Apple, is very advantageous. And that is really my accessibility journey. I started really getting into technology when I was just about to get into university, and I was figuring out, what are the kind of tools that I would need to succeed at university. So this was about 7 to 8 years ago when I was 15, and I had the tools in my hand, and I didn't know what were the sort of things that the phone could do. And then I basically went and, did research, whatever a small sort of window into me and my personality. If there is something that I don't understand, I do extensive research. And basically, until I'm satisfied, I don't either use the product or I don't recommend it to anybody for them to use, So I make sure that I cover all the angles and understand really what that sort of technology or app or, even a physical piece of equipment does before I fully engage with it. Because one, investing a lot of time into products and technologies that don't work and hinder your productivity is a very big challenge for people with disability, because our time is limited. And so we need to make the most of the time that we have in each day, to basically to do the things what we need to do effectively. And that is basically my sort of demonstration for you for this meeting. And I thank Ken and the rest of the members here for having me.
And thank you for teaching us about that. I'm curious on the phone. Maybe you mentioned it and I missed it, but
Yeah.
what about the keyboard on the phone? And does it make it easy to use the keyboard on the phone?
So the keyboard is basically, it's a normal touch type keyboard. It allows me a very responsive screen. I can type surprisingly fast. And so that allows me, to get my messages across super fast. And people who see me, who interact with me online, they don't know about my disability. They really get surprised when they see that I can type and navigate so fast with my digital devices.
And I'm thinking about somebody with, for example, cerebral palsy that doesn't have the mobility quite with their hands as somebody else. So they're still going to have to type with the keyboard. Can you take your screen share down? I think Nalish has a question. If you could, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let me.
No, I don't have a question, but I would like to say that whatever is mentioned is actually also available on Android after Android 11, because most of these things are actually mandated by, the EU and other, international guidelines. And one thing I would like to highlight here is, most of the operating systems that we use, especially Windows and Mac, there are a lot of inbuilt accessibility features that already exist. Many people do not know about it. So perhaps, we could kind of make them available. And Ken was saying about, keyboard. I think there are a lot of, I think the new ones that I use Android a lot. I use Android out of choice rather than Apple. I think Apple is a bit overrated. That's the personal opinion. And the thing is, there are a lot of applications that allow you speech to text, and speech to text has actually become very intuitive now. So even if you have an Indian accent or any other accent, it understands. Previously, you had to kind of imitate an American accent or a British accent to try and get it to talk, type. But now there are a lot of applications that are available, and recently the whole foray into AI has actually made accessibility much better. I have been indulging a lot of those things. I must here say that I use a Linux operating system. I don't use either Windows or Mac, and I have been working on making it accessible for a long time. Linux is not the most accessible, but it has also come up right up to this mark where you can say that what you can do on Windows in accessibility, you can almost around 80-90% do it on Linux. So I think we've come a long way through, and there is a lot to be done. And like you are saying that all these settings, unfortunately, not many people know about it, but it exists.
True.
Thank you.
Yes. And coming back to Ken's point as well, that somebody with cerebral palsy could in fact use devices like an Apple phone or an Android phone. There is a particular setting called switch control. So basically what it does is, and I have a very close friend who lives in Australia, and he's an accessibility ambassador as well, called Christopher. And he basically has muscular dystrophy, and he utilizes a series of buttons. So it's basically, I don't remember the company's name offhand, but it's basically a series of round buttons in varying sizes, big and small, depending on the surface area that you need. And that is hooked up to, a connector, a Bluetooth connector, and that links to your phone. And basically like scrolling, selecting menus, even taking a photo, those sort of minute and simple actions can be mapped to each of those buttons. And my friend actually uses the back of his head to utilize those buttons, and he navigates and types much faster than normal people, you know. So it is definitely, as you say, that as the years go on, the discoveries what we have in this year alone wouldn't be thought of, you know, maybe 15-20 years ago. And so progress is very rapid, and maybe that is one of the challenges for people to keep up with such changes in technology. You know, a lot of the people say, oh, I also use an Apple device and I didn't know this existed, you know. So it's basically a lot of awareness and a lot of, you know, maybe like Dr. Ferdy said, a lot of education is needed to bring this to the people who may need it the most.
John has his hand up.
Can I add something? Is there anyone?
Yeah,
In
go
the
ahead.
line?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is Samoon. Zimnan is our only son, the presenter today. Basically, I'm a learning environment designer, and I work with kids with dyslexia and dyscalculia. When we talk about these devices, everyone says, okay, you have these features, you have these features, you have that feature, you can do this, you can do that. This is the normal talk. And I have attended at least 25 to 50 conferences while I was in Singapore on assistive technology and ed technology and all technologies. What at the end of the day is you just walk out with overwhelming list of things. Everything says, okay, this is you can do, that is you can do, this is you can do. But only thing, at the end of the day, the learning experience designer has to sit with the kid and see what devices the kid has and how you navigate his learning needs through technology so that one can find a workaround way. So always there are, in many cases, what I have come across is technically, one side you have the technology, the other side you have the learning needs, but filling the gap or bringing them together is what makes the experience more memorable. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Simon. And John, you have your hand up?
Yes. One of the things I got involved with technology a long time ago, a long time before you were born. When we started out, we built ACPA cards, which we could do voice recognition with. And when we built the first ones in the 80s, they were costing in sterling terms £25,000 to build the whole thing. So nowadays, it's all built into the machines. I noticed that you don't use voice control for typing or for doing anything. Ken gets long misses from me, and when they're very long ones, I'm usually typing at about 120 words a minute because I'm using voice control. And going on from there. But the point about it is that the technology is driving forwards, and it is going very quickly. The problem that we're now getting is that the application technology is actually outgrowing the hardware. We can't. At one time, the hardware was growing, the applications didn't keep up. It's now the other way around. The overall thing about it is you need to make sure that it's going to do the job that you want. And a lot of people are actually using stuff which is not the correct ones for their needs. Your friend in Australia is using single switch control with his head, probably from Don Johnson in Chicago, going through from that. But you've got to get the right people to advise others especially things like single switch technology, you've got to get others to advise as to which is the best ones. Because I've seen an awful lot of people going ahead, getting hold of these systems, thinking they're going to solve all their problems, and they actually cause more problems. And you've got to be careful. You need to go and get proper advice from your father, from other people. And there are centers around the world. And Ken, I will give you something to put up later on, that because IBM used to have special centers for people with disabilities, which have now been assumed into other organizations, and like AbilityNet, which covers the whole of Europe. And you can download lots and lots of information, but it's getting the right information to the right people as they need it. You know, if somebody's going to use a computer and they're dyslexic, they've got problems if they don't know that they can actually get hold of something like, I'm not sure if it's still available, Samoon, but used to have Franklin's Dictionary, which you could actually load into your computer, and it actually corrected your dyslexia for you as you went along. So you've got those sorts of things, but you've got to get the right information. Too many people get in there, they dive in, they get the wrong information, and technology puts them off as opposed to enhancing them. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, John.
Very true. And I am a advocate of simple solutions as well. That's why this is an inbuilt setting. I'm also not a very big fan of overly complex assistive technology solutions, because one, like you say, they do more harm than good. And that is one of the reasons why I also didn't venture into voice control and dictation, because the basic environment that the phone provides, that enhances my productivity as well. So definitely, like you said, a lot of individuality and a lot of professional consultation, definitely in cases where the medical diagnosis or the condition is much more severe and has a lot of technical needs, then definitely professional intervention like occupational therapist would be very timely for people to sort of understand what kind of assistive technology they need. Thank you very much, Ken.
Ken, just for your information, one of the pictures which you see Dr. had right at the beginning was Stephen Hawkins when he visited India. Myself and a friend of mine, we actually built his first synthesizer, voice synthesizer, and we actually built the controls for his wheelchair. Because I was involved with the technology side at that stage, and it's amazing where you can go. And eventually he was using to control his wheelchair, he was using one muscle on the side of his face. That was it. And he could do anything in that wheelchair, include run people over.
Nice. Samuel, he's from Haiti. He's asking about the Windows and Linux. What's the system more accessible for the blinds, for people blind? I assume that's what he's talking about. Peter, are you still here? Peter, do you have an answer for that? Peter's a club member from Canada. It depends on the preferences. Okay. So, and Peter, I don't know if you can talk or not, maybe you can't, but Zaman, I should connect you with Peter. Peter's outstanding knowledgeable in these areas, and I was wondering if he felt that Apple was the most progressive in this area. Mic issues, okay, sorry. Because I mean, Microsoft and other companies too are making a lot of progress in the accessibility, technical accessibility area too. So, but
Ken,
we're going to. Go ahead.
Okay, Nick Corbett from the Carroll Institute says that they prefer to use the Windows system as opposed to Linux.
Okay, very good. So once again, it comes back to what was being said. You need to do your homework. You need to do your research. You got to figure out what's best for you, and go from there. There's lots out there, and I know, yeah, as you said, Zeman, that it's changing every single day. So I'll have to agree to disagree, he says on that. So that's Peter. If there's no other questions, I appreciate you all coming. I appreciate you, Doctor and Zeman, for your presentation. And much learned today, and hopefully it will help out somebody, because we're going to have this recorded so other people can see it too. So